A couple of them. Okay. Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Come on in and have a seat. Welcome to everyone that's in the chat tonight. I love to see all the different comments before we even get started tonight. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Tonight is going to be a great conversation. This, of course, is your host, Crystal Jordan, right here on Rolling Out, and also from Crystal with Love XO. So we have been talking to Ready to Love. I say Ready to Love is always cuffing season, but because Ready to Love seems to go all year round, there's always good opportunity to talk about dating and relationships all year round. So tonight we have the very beautiful Jessica on, and I see she just stepped into the backstage area. So we're getting ready to bring her on up. But so far, this has been a very interesting season. I keep saying that this has been a very interesting season. And I'm sure tonight is going to be interesting as well. Without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest in for tonight. So help me welcome the very beautiful Jessica. Hey.
Hey,
How are you?
girl, I'm living, sis. How are you?
I am too. It's been a long day. I'm going to have a
Listen,
little wine.
listen. That's what would be in this mug, okay? If we was on there, that is exactly what would be in here. But I am on some water today, so it's gonna be good. But I am right there where you are. It's been a long day.
It has been
I'm
a long
actually
day.
still at work.
It's only Tuesday. It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I feel like after August, like the year just disappears, and
Yes.
it's like it's Thanksgiving.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your year has been specifically different
Yeah.
because of all this going on with Ready to Love and this experience. Let me ask you, what has this been like for you watching along with the rest of the world what happened during the process? What's that been like?
Um, I would say it's been interesting. It's been
Okay.
an interesting experience. And I will say, because one, we don't know what's getting shared. We don't know
Right.
what's making it to the show floor. We don't know, what are they going to include? Are they going to include this, that, and the third? So I think that part is like the anxiety and just the anticipation of what are they going to talk about
Yeah.
is the one thing that's there too. I wish that they have shown more of. I mean, like we interview for hours at a
Yes.
time. I'm sure you know from some of the other castmates, we interview for hours, and so there's so much that I'm sure all of us have shared that we would have wished had have made it to the final cuts.
Yeah.
Like for me, I talked about because during this, I'm 38 now, but
Mhm.
I talked about my egg retrieval journey because I was processing through that. Yeah, through the show, I talked about that. So I was like, oh, okay, this is great. Black women, many people going through the same thing and thinking about this, right? And not being ashamed about it. So I talked
Yeah.
about that. That didn't make it, right? And so, of course, we talk about our business. I've talked about, I have autoimmune disorder. I talked about that, how it affects Black women. I talked about how I was a foster parent at 23 for
Oh,
some of my former students because I used to be in the classroom and stuff in higher ed as well.
wow. Okay.
I talked about living abroad because I had quit my job after my mom passed and just moved to France with a book bag and a suitcase. I was going to figure this out. So I talked about all these things. I talked about studying in Oxford. I talked about all of these different things. And it's kind of interesting that,
none of that made the cut.
None of it made it to the show floor. And the thing too is for me, I'm relatively quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So the narration and I will say, the depiction of who I am is being told from the lens of other people. Because if you notice, I'm not really talking that much on the show at all, right? And it was crazy because, girl, I had some funny moments in my interviews. Like, some real good Black church one-liners that I knew was just gonna make it. That did it.
So they robbed us of that part of your personality.
I was just like, and the thing is too, because some people say, "Oh my gosh, she's so stiff, she's so this." I'm like, seriously, you think I would have made it all the way through the interview process if I was going to be that boring and that stiff? Like, I'm really a good time, but and that's another thing too. In terms of like the dates. I asked production a couple of times. I even prepared them a nice spreadsheet. They didn't hear this. I'm a spreadsheet, like I'm obsessive with spreadsheets, right? So I made them a spreadsheet of all these amazing places I would like to go to. Because I told them, I said, I'm only going on dinner dates. And so if I'm only at dinner dates, you're only going to see me one way. Yeah. And I was like, I do yoga every morning. Like, I want to go to a yoga studio. My homegirl owns a Black-owned art gallery here. I do that. I had found Alvin Ailey. I wanted to go see that because I've seen it like 50 times. I put that on there. I put the symphony on there. And I got clearances, my friend's restaurant, all these different things. And I'm like, and every time I'd be like, yeah, we couldn't get that cleared in time. So you're going out to eat again. So I'm like, here I am, day 45, child, sitting at a table, eating food that I can't eat because y'all keep sending me to pasta restaurants. So,
yikes. Well, okay, we've heard a lot of that. We've heard a lot of that, and I just want to say, I always start out by thanking the guests for coming on because I really think the audience, specifically the audience that's here, really enjoys hearing the other side that we don't get a chance to hear on the show. So I appreciate you coming and being willing to like tell us a little bit about yourself that we didn't get a chance to see. That's really what I think people tune in here for. It's like, okay, we know that production, has an edit, and we know there's a lot more to that. So we love being able to do that. Okay, so in addition to the fact that I love the dates that you were suggesting, I'm a big Alvin Ailey fan as well. Like, that all sounds very colorful, but we also heard that you guys don't get a chance to really pick who you go out on a date with. Did you experience that as well?
I'm not going to say that was completely my experience.
Okay.
And I will say for myself, I had 2 connections the entire season. And I was very clear. And I think it can be seen. I'm very clear on what I'm going to do, what I'm not, who I'm interested in, and who I'm not. That's it.
Right.
So I said, these are my 2 connections. These will be the people I'll go out with. Okay. I'll do group dates with other people as well. I have no problem with that. But I don't feel like it's beneficial to the process of other people's time for me to continue to go on dates with people that I'm not interested in.
Right.
That was just my conversation. Like, I don't believe in that. Okay. So I did go on a few dates. Like, me and Herbert went on a one-on-one date, and I was like, why are we here? Like, me and Herbert have known each other 10 years. Like, why are we here?
Wow.
So I was like, that was a date that to me, I just felt was a little odd. It was a good time, but it wasn't necessarily one. But I did, for the most part, my dates were with my 2 connections, and I had one other date with Unique, Marvin, and Phil where there wasn't a connection there, but that was about it.
Right. So
I had one with Quentin later in the season, which was beyond bizarre because we were never a connection. But yeah, that was about it.
So your connections, we're assuming, would be Chris and Maurier.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you this, because I have a friend that went on the show years and years ago. The first season, she was very much the same way. She was like, I am only going to date people I'm interested in. It was Shay, and she was only interested in dating Mike. And she like, I'm not going out with anybody else. Most people haven't been able to get away with that besides her, because that was the first season and that the producers probably weren't prepared for Shay. But let me ask you, what was it about those 2 connections that made you pick them? And was there anyone else that you initially saw and were attracted to, you just didn't connect? Why only 2 connections, do you think?
I think for one, both of them kind of kicked off at the mixer.
Okay.
So both of them were at the mixer. We both had great conversations. I kind of talked to a lot of people at the mixer. And I was kind of like, okay, this could work, not so much. This is interesting, not so much, kind of going there.
Mm-hmm.
And me and Maurier connected later that night. We're actually talking about a book. I
Okay.
was telling him about this book that I was reading, and he talked about it, and I was like, oh my god, he's smart too. So we kind of went into that because I'm a sapiosexual. Like you can be all the finest in the world, but if I'm not stimulated, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So we kind of connected and started talking there. And then the other individual we connected in that same space was both at that same mixer. And I think within that space, I think it was kind of we both aligned well on paper, if
Okay.
that makes sense. And I say, okay, this can kind of work. This is familiar. This is what I see. This is what I know and I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the other one, it kind of went to my personal interest in like types of guys that I date. I kind of have a thing for the ones, who are a little thicker than usual. So that was, yeah. I mean, I have a thing like if I can't stick my finger in your navel to the first bend, I'm probably not gonna be able to talk to you too long. I'm serious. Like,
Really?
I know it's crazy, right? Like,
Where does that come from? What is that?
listen, I love all the guys' children. I do.
Yes.
I love every last one of them.
Yes.
But I think we all got a sore spot or a soft spot
We do.
for different things that we do and don't like.
Yeah.
So I think that was one. But then in the same breath, I was still interested in this other individual who is built very different.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's too, I don't really have this specific type, right? I think I have different interests depending
Okay.
on where people are.
Okay. I mean, I think there is a lid for every pot, and we all have different preferences, and I'm not gonna hold you on that preference. But do you like it to be like a soft middle, like whoo, like the
No, no, no. Like I like them thick, like cold grits, right? Not like watery. You know what I'm saying? Not like pancake batter, but like some cold grits that are a little thicker.
okay.
More like I would say Glenn Dorsey. That would be
Okay.
my person, like a Glenn Dorsey. But again, I also like Method Man. So it was interesting. It's an interesting mixing of both of them.
We all like Method Man.
Girl, like how are you 50 and that fine?
But we appreciate and we appreciate because there's not very many that hold it like that. So we appreciate. Shouts out to the 50 years of hip hop. Amazing. Yes, yes,
Yes, yes, yes.
yes. So I was gonna ask you that because those the Chris and Amari are very different. I want to just let me just address this early on because I noticed that you're not saying Chris's name, and I will say to you as a woman, we all, and I say myself and everyone on the channel when I first talked about the episode on Friday, after watching it, watching a man talk to a woman like that was disrespectful, and um, it was not anything that anybody excuses, and that was unfortunate. You should not have had to deal with that. Period. That was horrible to watch. And I appreciate you just not saying anything as opposed to being disrespectful. I wonder, did that experience, and we can get into that more later, but
Yeah.
did that experience kind of color your outlook on your entire journey on Ready to Love?
How are you defining color?
Like, did it make the entire did it overshadow any positive that you experienced on the show? Because at this point, I would assume that that's the biggest thing that stands out about your Ready to Love experience is that scene with you and Chris when you were basically given the responsibility of letting him know that he wasn't ready to love. Has that scene and that what happened in that particular episode really just changed your perspective of the entire journey?
I think I would maybe say if I ranked it on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe it'd be a 7.
Okay, that's pretty high, and
Yeah, I'll
that's
put it
fair.
as probably a 7. And I think that's just because, and we can talk about it later, but I think it's just it doesn't always show the true depiction of everything that took place. It
Yeah.
shows what they wanted, which we talked about before, what
Yeah.
they wanted to make it to the show floor.
Yeah.
And I think that's the unfortunate piece because, if that situation, had happened between two females, they would air the whole thing because we want to see as much tomfoolery amongst Black women as possible. But in
Facts.
this particular situation, we're getting a cut up, edited version
Yeah.
of what actually took place. And it's
Yeah.
and it's kind of unfortunate because it's okay for me to live it and sit through it and experience it and then have to watch the replay back.
Yeah.
But it's not fair that it was still edited to where, because people are saying, what did she say? What did she do? Like, I didn't do anything. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So it's just unfortunate that they felt that that was the best way to highlight that.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
But we can move on. We got other stuff to talk about.
yeah, well, let's go back. Let's go back. Now, I would say, just from talking to you and hearing a little bit of your background, hearing that you studied abroad, hearing
Yeah.
that have just a really rich cultural background. I am
Mm-hmm.
assuming that you would like to date someone that has that similarity, and hearing that you're sapiosexual, which I can relate to. Let's talk about your non-negotiables, right? Prior to Ready to Love. Like, what is important to Jessica? What were you looking for dating prior to coming on the show?
So I think to clearly illustrate that, it'll probably be important to provide some context on my background.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah. So I am from Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So I had a very different experience growing up in terms of what Black excellence looked like.
Yeah.
So my experience for a lot of people is the reverse. I tell people all the time, I didn't have a white doctor, I think, until I went to college. So for me, that was what I saw. So the bar was set really high coming out.
Mhm.
Even in some of those same things, like I did my summer when I went to high school, whatever, went to gifted programs, but I did my summers in boarding school. I had a very different experience than the majority of the people that I typically was around within this space.
Okay.
And then I did my study experience and I've lived abroad and I've done a bunch of different things. But I would say in that there's duality within people too, right? Because I love a good ratchet time. And I'm gonna have me a good ratchet time with my friends and my homegirls, right? So I think that there is some balance within both of those.
Yeah.
And so listen, AT girl, right there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that was also kind of left off, right? Like she's just serious, she's just this, she's just that. I'm a good time, so I enjoy that as well. But I want to have a partner that has a good time too. So for me, I was interested in someone. And also, my father's a pastor, so I grew up in church. My grandmother was the mother of the Kojic Church for like 40 years.
Oh,
so I was
okay.
super Kojic. Okay, so I was really steeped in different things. But in that same space, I went to Catholic school. So I have a breadth of other religions, and then I lived in Muslim countries. So it's kind of different to see all right. So also people like, oh my gosh, she still talked to Maurier after the tarot cards. I'm like, child, like you can look at a myriad of experiences and still be able to find something, right? So non-negotiables to your initial within the nose. At this age, I'm 38. People gonna have kids, so I try to just make sure they have the least amount of kids as possible.
Probably the least amount of baby mamas with
the least amount of it as possible, because like I said, I'm doing egg retrieval, so I want to have my own child as well, right?
Yeah.
So I want to do that. I wanted somebody who wants to be a father. I really wanted a partner. I have friends who have their husbands are great fathers, but they're not great husbands.
Yeah.
And so I had one good friend. She talks a lot about having a great partner. So that was something I wanted to focus on too. I wanted someone who was also faith-based. I also wanted someone who really was okay with us having 50-50 in representation, right? So with that being said, with that being said, I'm a business owner. Like I own Ezra Coffee. We are a specialty coffee brand. We are the only female Black-owned brand on shelf in HEB grocery stores. We're on Amazon. We're in Target.
Okay.
I've scaled this in 16 months, to national retail sales, right? So I'm pretty ambitious and very aggressive about getting things done that I want done. But I need a partner that's going to be like, listen, that's Jessica's thing. She into it. Let her go. I'm going to do that. Because when it's about him, I'm gonna make it all about him as well too. You understand? So I think that I think people see it as it's only this way, and it's not that way. It's gonna when it's about you. It's like my ex. He's a doctor as well. He's a doctor, and he's a writer, and he's also an attorney. So when it's about him, it's all about him. I'm at all of his events. I'm going to all the chicken dinners. We're doing all the things. But when it was on Jessica's day, he was able to support Jessica too, right? So it's really being able to have that duality and support with people. And I think sometimes people will see this one way. And then the other thing too was I wanted this person to be a listener, an active listener, and then also someone who was willing to be able to come to resolve within things, accept accountability, be dependable. And more importantly, you probably saw this from the improv that I'm very big on how people feel about sick people. And I'll say why. It's because my mom passed in 2016. But my mother was on death's door for 3 years.
Okay.
So I had to watch my father take the backseat to things that he was doing to literally bathe her, get her ready, fix her makeup, check in on her. Even when she went to a coma, my father was there every single day, sitting beside her bed every single day. So for me, when I hear a lot of this 50-50 stuff, it doesn't matter to me. Are you going to be there in my weakest moments? And can you speak for me when I can't speak for myself? You know, when those doctors told my daddy, you know, call in the family, he did call in the family, and they brought oil and everything. We prayed up and laid her down. And 3 years later, she lived another 3 years, right? Yeah. Are you going to go to bat for me when I'm not able to do it for myself? So those are some of the things that are a little bit more important to me, just based off my own lived experiences.
That's real. And I think that is the real goal, I think, of marriage. I am a entrepreneur as well, and recently got remarried. And I will say that is what I wanted more than anything, was like a best friend, and then someone that had the type of character and integrity that would be with me even when times are hard. And we're in a culture that's very selfish, and people leave whenever things are convenient. But I want to ask you this, because I have to be honest with you. I know for myself as an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur that was single for a while, it's difficult. And I have a lot of friends who are amazing, fabulous. You know, I'm here in Atlanta, so there's all my friends are female entrepreneurs.
Oh, you at home too? Well, not home, but you in Atlanta too?
I'm in Atlanta. Yeah, I've been here since 2005. And so like I said, I have a tribe. In my wedding were 8 bridesmaids. Every single one of them are business owners. Every single one of them, and myself included, struggles with balance, right? And it's just because you can want to be able to focus totally on the person, but a lot of times if you are a business owner and you're very ambitious, it can be difficult sometimes, right? Absolutely. So I know for myself, it is one of the things I still struggle with as a married woman. It's still a struggle as an entrepreneur and a married woman. So I wonder, for you, have you ever found yourself struggling with that balance of being able to be present and being focused on your partner and still being able to be the superwoman that shows up for Ezra?
Yes and no. And I would say yes, because sometimes you ever be present, but you're not present. Yeah. Like, I'm here, but I'm thinking about 40 other things.
Absolutely.
So I think if in the element, and when we think about presence, I would say probably in that aspect, yeah, maybe. Okay. But if it's something I say I'm gonna do it. Okay. If I made a commitment to be there, I'm gonna be there. If it's on the calendar, it's gonna happen. You know, unless there's just something, I'm ill or whatever, and I just can't make it through, then so be it, you know. But other than that, not really. Okay. But I typically too also talk to other entrepreneurs, so we kind of get each other, or other people who have very high demanding careers. So you got your thing, I got my thing. Like, I need to miss you a little bit. You know, I want to be up under you all day long. So
okay. Where do you see, because it's interesting that you were working on egg retrieval, and I know there's so many, I have friends, you know, work doing that. I mean, like I said, I'm surrounded by very, very amazing, passionate, ambitious women who also value family. So what caused you to say, let me focus on this part? And then what do you want that to look like? Like, what do you want motherhood to look like for you?
Yeah, so I actually stopped the process during the show because it was too stressful. Like, it was getting too stressful, you know, like, and it was just a lot going on. I felt like, for this, I want to be at peace. I'm gonna go whatever. So I actually restarted. So right now my stomach is like a pincushion, child, because I've been doing these injections every day. But I did it because I'm getting older, but I wanted to take the pressure off of feeling like, are you the one? Are you the one? Are you the one? Are you the one? Right? I just wanted to kind of take that off and just kind of move forward. I feel like the biggest decision that you will make is the person who you decide to have a child with, right? Because you have to ask yourself, if something were to happen to me, God forbid, will this person take care of my child in the manner in which I would want them raised in my absence? So that's something that you have to think about. And it's not just for them, it's for their family as well, too. Right. So for me, in terms of a mother, I will be all things, like that will be my first priority. And ensuring that they have everything that they want. Like my parents, my father, is amazing and provided me with a very beautiful and blessed lifestyle. And I would want to do the same thing for my children as well.
Okay. That's admirable. I think everyone that wants to be a mother should have the opportunity to do that. So that's awesome. Let me ask you this. Because you do have a very colorful background as far as like you've had the opportunity to do a lot of things that a lot of 38-year-olds have not had a chance to do.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, we know that as Black women, we are not a monolith. And your experience is definitely not that, right? It's not typical. So I had a conversation with one of your castmates, Kira, who also has a very different, being a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, very different experience than most Black women have had. That's probably like, I was a cheerleader growing up. That's probably the ultimate like high of being a cheerleader, right? So I wonder, and we know that there was some issues with some of the young ladies on the cast and Kira. What are your thoughts on the fact that she too had a very different experience, much like yours, just different, I guess, variables, but still very different than I would say what people think of when they think of a Black woman living in Dallas, Texas. Did you have an issue with that? And if so, why?
Did I have an issue with what? With Kira?
With Kira, right.
I don't have an issue with Kira. I think the thing was, I felt some of her comments were off-putting. So case in point, at the mixer, we were all asking, like, where are you from? It's the first time we're going to meet each other. And I said, oh, I'm from Atlanta. And she was like, oh, yeah, Atlanta's a little too Black for me. I like my cities with salt and pepper.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was like, whoa, okay. That was a little strong, right? Because that's the first thing you say. Like, so I'm like, are you trying to say Atlanta's ghetto? Like, where are we sitting with this comment, right? So that was the first one. Then there was a conversation later about doctors that we were all talking, and she's like, yeah, I don't do Black. And I was like, okay. So for
Black doctors?
Black doctors. And I was just like, well, did you have a bad experience? Like, what happened? Like, I'm trying to get to understand here. And so she discussed, what took place. Okay, fine. That's your experience, right? Okay. For me, I knew early on that the thing is, I don't have a problem with Kira. I think Kira is great for TV. And I found her to be hilarious. She was one of the people I went on the majority of my group dates with, right? I don't have a problem with her. But I also knew in that same vein that me and her, we're not going to be probably having very deep conversations because we don't align on certain areas. As I would say, we just don't set horses. That's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It's just, I think that can be that. Like, I'm the kind of person, I can hear what you're saying, not agree with it, and still be able to converse with you on a day-to-day basis. Like, it doesn't have to be an issue. I think some people feel like if I don't agree with you, I don't like you, then we have to not speak at all. Right. I don't think that's the case, right? And so even when, we're in the lounge and they were going back and forth, and this is one thing that irritated me about this show is how they edit things, and then how they edit the order of what takes place, right? So they tell us where to sit in all of these lounges.
Gotcha.
We have assigned seats. It just so happened that day that me and Janelle were sitting together. That was the first time we were sitting next to each other.
Okay.
And for the full disclosure, there are several people on this cast who were friends prior to this show.
Okay.
The only people that had to disclose that they were friends was myself and Janelle. Like, production came over, was like, established a relationship of where you guys know each other from. Oh, literally, wow. That was done at the mixer. And I was like, okay, that's weird. So immediately now it's known these girls are friends, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, fine, whatever. I was friends with Herbert too. I mean, like,
we didn't know that. Yeah.
Friends with Herbert too. So anyway, so there was that. So there are groups of friends that were friends prior to the show, or who have known each other or engaged with each other prior to the show.
Okay.
So when her and Janelle are going back and forth, I'm kind of letting them do their thing, right? And so then she says, "Well, you and Jessica are both mean girls," and that's when I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Now, I don't have a problem with you. I
Okay.
don't have a problem with you." I said, "What the two of y'all got going on is between you. I don't have a problem with you." I
Hmm.
said, "But you have said things around levels of blackness. For
Hmm.
example," and I explained what she said to me, and
Hmm.
she was like, "Yeah, I said that." And I'm like, "Exactly." So that doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means I don't feel like we need to talk about that particular topic. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And that's just kind of what it was. And I don't think, and how they edited it, though, they made it seem as if we were trying to, it was going back.
Ganging up. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't what it was. The two of them were talking.
Hmm.
She said that, and then when she made that comment, that's when I leaned in and was like, "Hold on now.
Yeah.
This is what I don't feel that way. I don't have a problem with you. I don't get money with you. I ain't broke bread with you. Like, there's no reason for me and you to have beef.
Yeah.
But you did say this, and I do find it to be off-putting,
Yeah.
and that's just the facts."
That's fair. That's definitely fair. I think she realized we didn't know about Atlanta being too black, but I do
Of
think
course, that would mean that I'll have to tell the whole story versus the part of the story where I look like a savior.
very true. Very true. And she did take accountability for the fact that she learned a lot during this experience, and probably, it was probably a crash course in diversity for her, which hopefully she grows from. Um, because that's a lot. But I guess depending on how you grew up, you know, that may seem the norm. But I do appreciate you cut, clearing that up, because it was all season long. The story to the viewers has been you and Janelle are kind of, well, you called mean girls, kind of ganging up on the other ladies. Was that your experience as far as you guys being the two of you guys against the rest of the ladies on the show?
I think it's interesting that I'm called mean, yet no one can specifically speak of a specific instance in which I was mean to them.
Mm.
Like, even all of these interviews, it's always, it was so much done behind scenes. At what point was I mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, these people have talked about my deceased mother. Now, if I had popped off, yeah, Tequila was on your platform, was talking about, Jessica's mom and her dead mom and all this other stuff. Now, if I had popped off, it would have been on me,
Yeah.
right? It would
No.
have been me as being mean. I would have been the one that's crazy. They would have tried to make it seem like I don't have any good sense.
Yeah.
But
No.
how
Now,
somebody's
honestly,
dead mom, like that's
no.
a bit far. You
If someone
understand?
says something about your mother, especially that, that is horrible. And Tequila has also acknowledged that she, allowed her emotions because of things that were happening to get the best of her in some situations. That's just unfortunate. I guess for the viewers, it's just hard to watch because, like you alluded to earlier, they, specifically on reality shows, like we just constantly have to see us going against us, and it's tiring, and
It's be and the thing about it is that's the thing that bothers me the most is if someone responds,
Mhm,
they played a response versus what kicked off the interaction to begin with.
mhm, mhm,
You understand? So
mhm.
it'll look that way. I don't feel, and none of them have been able to tell you any time when I was mean to them. So I don't feel that I've been mean. To be honest, I noticed early on within the show of how things were going
Mhm.
that I just was like, I think I'm just going to be quiet because I also have very different views
Yeah.
than a lot of people on the show.
Mhm.
And so if you notice, I'm quiet for the majority of it. I'm not doing a whole lot of talking. I'm not doing a whole lot of engaging. I'm not participating in a lot of stuff, which also in hindsight gives the viewer the opportunity to develop whatever they want to think about that person because they're not talking and they're not engaging, right?
Very true.
So, yeah, so then there's that as well. That's something that for me watching it back, I was like, dang, I probably should have talked more,
Mhm.
but I felt like, let me just kind of keep it close, keep it cool. It
Yeah.
is what it is. Even when they say slick comments,
Yeah.
um, I took the high road. Even the whole the first lounge. It was like, what you want to fight me for? Like, I was over here minding my business, and what's even crazier was we used to get our makeup done at the same makeup lounge, at the same makeup bar. So I
Mhm.
saw you just yesterday and
Yeah.
all was good.
Yeah.
And I even went through my phone and I saw pictures, and guess what? At that same lounge, we're getting our makeup done. You were borrowing my makeup brush. Like, you were borrowing my makeup brush, dancing, we're laughing, we're talking, we're doing all of this. Here's the photo. Who's in the bottom lower third? That's her right there. This me. This my makeup brush you borrowing. That's
Mhm.
just downstairs. So
Yeah.
how do we go from downstairs, we cool, to upstairs? You can get it too.
Yeah. um, do you think that some of the other ladies assumed that you and Janelle were the same, like her feelings were your feelings? Because Janelle has been, unlike you, we didn't see you really saying anything on camera. They can always edit. You could roll your eyes at something that happened an
Girl,
hour ago,
ain't that funny? Ain't you
and they
been
can,
noticing that?
right. We can.
Yeah. I'm like, I would even roll my eyes at that, but they'll put
Yeah,
them right there. But
yeah.
yeah, I gotta eat it. I own it.
But do you think that, as Tyra's World said, you did end up being guilty by association? Because, like I said, Janelle was very vocal about someone having a fake purse, girls being ugly. Like, I mean, she was very vocal about a lot of things. So, do you think that
Listen,
you kind of inherited some of her energy just by association?
I don't think we inherit anyone's energy. I feel like me and Janelle are friends. Like, and I think that people just see people as a collective.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way because there are other friends on the show where I was like one more than the other, but it's not going to be where I'm gonna not talk to this one and not engage with that one.
Hmm.
That's just not how I operate. Like, I feel like that's high school. Like, I
Yeah.
don't rock with you, so I don't rock with your girl. Like, we're not in
Yeah.
games. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not that deep. But I feel that different people respond to things differently. For me, oh, all right, okay, all right, girl, whatever, and that's kind of how I was towards the majority of the season. Towards the end, I'm boiling because I'm irritated, but
Yeah.
for the majority of them, I'm like, all right, whatever. But everybody's not going to be that way.
Yeah. So, do you I mean, you could be friends with someone, but you can say I agree or I disagree with what they're saying. So some of the statements that were made, like ugly ass bitches, and uh, her bag is fake, but mine is real. Do you do you have uh I guess you have a feeling about those statements, or you think those were fair, or you think she had been pushed, or where do you see yourself? Because as a friend, I would say, girl, that was a little bit much, right?
Yeah, I called. So the cat stuff I saw when you guys saw, but with the purse thing, when I called her, I was like, "Now you wildin', like, girl, for real? Like, did you have to say that?" She was like, she said her position on how she felt about it.
Hmm.
But the thing about me and Janelle's relationship, we can agree to disagree. Like, I, did you have to say that? And she was like, I mean, but it's the truth. I'm like, but really, is it necessary? And she has her feelings on it, and I feel like she's welcome to feel the way that she does,
She
right?
is.
Like that, and that's her position. And I
Right.
think that's the beauty and the diversity of people. We don't all have to think, respond, and view everything the same. Like, that's just not into how some people are.
Yeah, it is. It is, but it is, but it could be, certain things can be just hateful and certain things aren't. Um, last question about the ladies for right now. What
Oh, okay.
what about the interaction with Lee, that we just saw on Friday? Because that was really the only time that we saw you kind of really have something to say. There was like a little bit of a going back and forth in, as you guys were all together. So was that directed towards Lee, or was that more about Chris?
I literally said on camera, "This is not towards you." I literally said that. Like, I said that in the moment. So here's the thing: like, we do the lounges, we come in, we talk about our dates, we share our experiences, whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
Since the beginning of the season, I would come in, I would share my experience, all the girls share their experience, and anytime I said anything, about my experience, and it wouldn't even be negative. Like, I'm gonna say, "Oh, we went to the restaurant and my food was cold."
Hmm.
They'll say, well, when I went to the restaurant, my food was hot. It doesn't negate that my food was cold. You understand what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
so that's been like the thing. I was like, in the beginning, I was like, Well, he says he's interested. He was this, but I don't feel like he called me. Well, he called me all the time. Okay. I'm not saying that that's not, but this is still my experience. And so in this knowledge, it was the same thing. I'm saying what's going on within my experience. And then right as I'm talking about it, well, cutting in, I didn't say it. That's what they said about ours. Like, that does not mean that that's not my experience. And so what I actually said in there was I was talking to Tommy, and my statements have been consistent the entire way through. Lack of consistency was one of the biggest things that I had with that person. And then the other one, I have a thing where I don't want to date a man. This is my personal preference. I don't want to date a man who's the biggest fish in his circle. Like, I just don't. Like, if you the top, I don't want to, because if anything happens, you ain't got nowhere to fall down. Like, everyone's pulling on you. Yeah. So I was discussing a conversation with Tommy that he and I had, and in that conversation he was talking about mortgages and all this other stuff, whatever. And so I said, he can't buy me. He can't buy me. Like, I said that. And so in that statement, and she says, are you trying to throw slugs or whatever? When she said it, I realized, oh, wow, this can come across as if I'm trying to shade her, which is why I turned to her and said, this is not about you. Yeah. I'm talking about that. Like, I was very clear with that, because when you're talking and you just get to going, you don't always understand how stuff come across. But when she checked me on it and said that, I was like, oh crap, let me address this right now, in the moment, on camera, because a lot of people like to do stuff off camera. On camera right now. This is not towards you. Like, I want you to understand, I'm not shading you. I understand how it can be received that way. Yeah. Which is why I addressed it, right? I understand how someone can take it that way, which is why I addressed it. But I think anybody can watch and see that I'm clearly upset about this individual and how they've been treating me through this entire process. Yeah. And I'm discussing it. And this is just so happens to be in line. So I even saw somebody on Twitter was like, yeah, I think it was just poor timing. Call it what you want, but I was very clear in what I said. Yeah. Okay, that is clear. You are very clear about that. I think that was like for me with the ladies, we didn't see you get actually going back and forth. We just heard, well, the two of them, but we didn't see that, from you. So that's, it wasn't there. Like, think about this. As messy as this show is, and as messy as they want to be. Yeah. Don't you think if I was cutting the fool and talking crazy and stuff like that about people, it would have aired? Yeah, but that's absolutely true. I mean, don't you think that, like, if they will play a comment of her talking about somebody's purse while she's walking out from a scene, I'm like, don't you think that they would have did the same thing? Well, I will say this, just to play devil's advocate. I think there is a narrative already in play, right? So I think they will choose, the powers that be will choose what is talked about and what isn't, because there are a lot of arguments and shade even on other seasons that are not shown. It's like, why wouldn't they show that? Like, why wouldn't they talk about that? So we don't know why they do what they do, but that's why I'm glad. But I didn't have any issues with any of them. Like, I didn't know that there was really tension, because we were all in a group chat for the most of us. Yeah. So the majority of us were in a group chat talking all the way up into the cash trip. So I didn't think that there was an issue until we got there. I was like, something's off. Like, something's not, something's not clicking. And that can just be me, again, earlier, not being present, focusing on some other, focusing on some other things. So I wasn't really in that space with them, but I hadn't gotten into it with any of them, right? Like, I shared my experiences about dating. They jump in for their friend, whatever, but it was nothing. It's nothing to beef about. So I have no reason to shade you for what. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, let's take a break from that and focus on something else that's positive. If you guys are just tuning in, we are talking with Jessica from Ready to Love. We have had it's been a very interesting season, this Dallas season, and it's weird because it's been interesting, but we've talked least about the actual connections. Like, that's been what we've talked about the least amount. The social media conversation is about all this drama as opposed to the actual connection. So let's talk about one of your connections. Let's go back to Maurier, because I think we also didn't get a chance to really see
a real like connection between the two of you guys. The date that you guys went on with you and Janelle and Amare, that was weird to have you guys both there because we didn't think that Janelle had a connection with Amare at all. So that was weird pairing with the X and then the tarot cards. What were you offended by the tarot cards, and did you think that was a big a big deal?
So the first part was the connections, right? So I will say, I think I've heard some other people mention this. I don't listen to go on too many of these YouTube things, but I know some people have mentioned about the concerns around the dates. I will say that the dates are out of order, like crazy, right?
Okay.
So at this time, me and Mario have been on several dates. I don't know why they've not aired them, but we've been on several dates prior to this, like individual dates and group. Matter of fact, that date where he's talking to Kira about the blackness thing, it was actually a group date.
Oh
So
wow.
it was me, Kira, Phil, and Maurier on that date. And that was an element that they pulled from that date and used that snippet there. But we were all on that date together, right?
Right.
And then, of course, again, me and Kira was on the group date at Stir when me and Maurier are upstairs. So, talking and stuff there too. So
Mhm.
there are elements that they're using. Like I said, I'm just not sure why they're not playing things in order or how to, I don't know. I really don't know. So it does look odd. Like, why is she saying Maurier and we don't see him? But during the thing, me and him been going on dates the entire time, right?
Got
Like there
got
are dates with me and my other connection that they didn't show.
Mhm.
So it's like I don't know what they got going on in terms of editing. Now
Yeah.
in terms of the tarot card, I was wondering why she was there too. She was like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, to be very clear, her and Lee were like had the most connections as soon as the season kicked off, right?
Right.
Like the two of them were, the hot connections. And so I was like, well, maybe because she has so many connections, or he mentioned that he had a connection with her and that he wanted her to come, which
Okay.
is why they were, because they're not going to send you on dates on these dates without your name is coming up. Somebody is making a mention of either side that they want you to go on a date. Like,
I don't
let's let's
know. I
let's
don't
be
know.
honest. People not being honest. Like,
Okay. Okay.
they're not. Why would they spend budget on that?
I don't understand, but there are a lot of castmates, and I like have said they did not any like for instance Lee and Marvin. We saw Lee and Marvin go on like 2 or 3 dates. They never connected on any of the dates from what we saw, right? And neither of them have mentioned wanting to go on dates with each other. So it is kind of weird, why they did that. And every time they showed Marvin, they did show him getting into it about his sexuality. So that's weird.
Yeah, I didn't think that was fair. I don't think a lot of editing has been fair to certain people, right? Like I went on some group dates with Unique,
Yeah.
and I found Unique to be very pleasant and very like she's just chill, like she just has a very chill personality.
Yeah.
But I hated that because we went on a group date too. I hated that the only thing we kept seeing was the whole thought job thing, right?
Mhm.
Like she's in production, she's
Yeah.
got kids, like she has a lot more to her too, that I hate that was the only thing that we kept seeing was this
Yeah.
thought job narrative. Like I
Yeah.
thought she was super dope. So I
Yeah.
don't know. So the tarot card piece, I think what blew me was that it was just thrown on me, right? Like, and like I said on the thing, like me and Maria talked all the time, and you never told me about tarot cards. Now I'm not completely opposed to it because I've had a reading done in the past, but I
Mhm.
think with the reading, I don't really know who you are. So
Yeah.
you start reading over me. I think that was a little weird. The date was also kind of weird in the totality of it because I noticed that they kept stopping that date for whatever reason and like pulling her to the back. And
Oh,
every time she would come back, she would have it would be something very odd, like the questions or the order. And I'm like, what is going on? So I thought that date was just kind of weird all the way around,
yeah. Yeah.
But I really didn't like it because we had a lot of great conversation and about other things, and that's what they chopped it down to,
Yeah.
was the sex and the tarot cards. So when you see my friend date, my friend that I brought on, actually, she's one of my former students. I've been mentoring her since she was in the 7th grade
Oh, nice.
through high school. She's graduated from the Ohio State University. Like, I am so proud of her. She's my favorite human. But
Mhm.
she's also a Christian. She
Okay.
also does readings. She's also into crystals. So I brought her to that friend date with Maurier to get a read on
Right.
being faith based and having these practice or engaging in some of these things. Is this something that can work? They
Okay.
didn't show that part, of course. So now people are like, how's she talking to him? And she said he did tarot cards. And then they put the other half of our date where we talk about that because my homeboy Tony's like, who on the main line? Like, who
Right,
on
right,
the main line? Who are
right,
you talking to, right?
right,
They put
right.
that on YouTube. So if you're not watching the show here and on YouTube, you're missing big,
Yeah.
big
I
gaps of
saw
what's
that and
taking
I
place.
was wondering, like, what is the connection between that? But at first I thought, well, did you have an issue with, because spirituality, children, and finances are usually the big
Politics.
issues that people, have on this show. Do I want to have kids? Am I a Bible toting Christian? Am I just spiritual? All that, and do you have enough money to hate me? But I wondered, did you were you opposed to, because Amare definitely seems to have a different spiritual practice. Where did you see his do you see that being in alignment with what you believe after
Yeah,
after
so
getting to know him?
we talked about it a lot more thereafter, and then after one on one as well too. And I think we are in alignment for where we believe in terms of believing in Christ and believing in faith and
Okay.
believing that God will be head of our household, right? We're in alignment in that space. And it's even kind of unfair to him too, is the pieces that they wanted to show because he talked about that. He said that on our friend day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Tell us because we didn't get a chance to see you guys dates. And I think that's why a lot of people we don't really see anyone's connection, at least this is from my perspective, really besides Phil and Aries. We haven't get
Yeah.
a chance to really see people get to know each other. Y'all have to excuse my dogs. My husband and my dogs are doing something weird. I don't know what's
Oh,
happening. But
what kind of dog you have?
oh my God, I have a Rottweiler and a Cane Corso and a pit and then a tiny little dog.
Oh, so I grew up with Rots, and I have a King Corso on my list of dogs that I want right now. I had
Really?
a Doberman,
Okay.
but I had to return them. But yeah, so I'm thinking I want a King Corso at this point. I
I
don't
was
need no dog because I don't have time, but that's what I want when I
that's
wake
what
up in the morning.
well, I tell you what, if you he is Titan, I'll send you a picture when we hang up. I'll DM it.
Yeah,
He is a beautiful dog. They are they're big and they look foreboding, but they're such big babies. And they love to be with one owner. So they
yeah,
want, so that would be a good, as long as you have time, because they are definitely like they want to be up under you all the time at 150 pounds, which is crazy.
right.
But yeah, I'll send you a picture of Titan once we get done off this. So yeah, I was saying we don't. Yeah, Sheila, the dog food bill is stupid, but we have a lot of land, so they can run around, and it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot going on. But let me ask you this. Tell us about what was it about Maurier that made you guys have a connection? Because we don't get a chance to see that. So can you tell us a little bit about what you liked about him and where you guys kind of found that chemistry?
Yeah, so like I said before, we connected at the mixer, and then I would say we start talking thereafter, and then again, you'll probably see us connect on camera at the stir date where he's like, "I want to draw my line in the sand right
Mm-hmm.
here." So
Mm-hmm.
then that was there, and so I appreciate that Maria is smart. We can talk about a variety of different things, and a lot. What's funny is even in our connections, me and Maria was sending articles and books back and forth. Like, did you read this? Have you seen this? Like throughout the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
What was this show? So we were doing those different things. I appreciated Marie's love for family because I have a small family. My mom's only child, so I don't have any aunties on the side, any cousins. Like I don't have those things, and
Okay.
they are like family reunion every year type people, right? So I appreciate it because I know for me, when I have kids, like personally, I look for men whose mothers are still alive because I want my baby to have a grandmother because I know that they won't get that from me. And hearing him talk about how active his mother is with his family, I was like, okay, this is something I like to learn too. I appreciated the fact that he was an entrepreneur and he didn't mind hustling. Like he can get out here and like really get things done. So
Mm-hmm.
I like that about him as well. Another thing too is I like that he was verbiage. I like that he was very much for his people and very much for community. So you saw we just literally some of the cast did a community day. We had
Mm-hmm.
the Black Heart Association, we had the Black Doctors Association, we did all free physicals for all the kids, so they don't have to worry. Yeah, like the parents didn't have to worry about copay, nothing. The doctors donated everything. Free
Mm-hmm.
haircuts. We gave away free eyeglasses from a black optician, so all
Right.
the kids would not get prescription eyewear because they can't afford it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the kind of thing that I want to be able to do with my partner on the weekend. I saw that those were some things that I can do with Maurier.
Mm-hmm.
So those were some of the alignments that I saw within there as well too. So yeah, and he's well traveled too. So he's done an experience in the Mecca. He's done some things that so those things were some of the things that I looked at. I was like, oh, okay, we're kind of deep. And I'm an avid art collector, right? So I have the piece that last stanza from Potty Do, from the album Nayla. I have that piece by William Tolliver.
Oh
So
wow.
we were able to kind of talk and connect on those things.
Okay.
So that's kind of what kind of connected me with Maurier. But like I said, I don't know when they're gonna show these dates because
I don't know if I don't know if we're going to see him. I don't know if we're going
yeah,
to.
because they were filmed like a while ago.
Yeah, I don't know if we got time before the reunion. It would be 2 episodes, I think, um,
Yeah.
for that to happen. Did you guys? Did you guys have? Because I definitely hear how you guys have a lot in common as far as sapiosexual and mental connection. Did you guys have fun? Did you guys have like a physical chemistry as well? Because that's one
Yeah,
he
you know,
mentioned.
everybody think I'm so stiff and I'm not soft and that I'm so hard. You actually see me hugging and engaging with a man on camera. Now, whether they choose to show it is them, but that took place on the dates with Maurier.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of what that is.
I think they pulled that because there was that scene on the couples trip, which I will just say, I cannot imagine going on a dating show because I would not feel comfortable showing emotion on camera. But that's also why I could not go see myself on the show.
Yeah.
But when he said, I feel like it's going to be, Jessica doesn't really show affection or she's slower to do that. I think when you get that little clip and then we don't see that, that's of course where audiences could make that assumption. So
Yeah.
do you know why? Do you know why he said that? Had you guys had a conversation about it?
Well, yes and no. So yeah, there's not that's just not my personality. Like I greet everybody when they come in, I hug everybody when they come in, but I made it very clear in my interview, I'm not gonna be on national TV kissing nobody's child. Especially not while y'all COVID testing. Like I'm not doing that. So that's just not me, like I'm not gonna be laid and hugged up all over you. I did feel like I showed affection on our one-on-one dates, but did I do it a lot in our group? No, I didn't. I can own that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think too, in that there's a lot of pressure of, there's cameras all the time, there's people all around, there's there's a lot going on, and I think that sometimes it can just be overwhelming for somebody like me. It's sensory overload. Like what's next?
Yeah. No, that would be a lot. That would be a lot.
And I think too, I think viewers watch this show and feel like we've been filming this for 15 weeks.
Yeah,
Like
that's how.
we filmed this whole thing in 4 weeks, 12-hour days. So I'm changing clothes at this place, going into another date, changing clothes at this place, going to another date, and then they stretch it out over this. So some of these times that you see me on dates with people, it's my second time seeing them in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not gonna be laid up, hugged up under you. That's just
I think that's number one. It's the magic of television, right? So
yeah.
they make it seem like it's a long experience. And then also there are some people that jump and are quick. There are some people you can go on a date with. Next thing you know, they're like, "I miss you." I'm like, "What do you miss?" So that it just people's personalities are different. I did think it was interesting, and Trina mentioned this, that Amare said he didn't think he'd ever been in love. That is always like a red flag when I hear a man say that, because I'm like, if you've never been in love, how are you going to get in 4 to 6 weeks? That's probably going to be a little bit strange. Was that a red flag or a yellow flag to you? And have you had that experience yourself?
No, I've definitely been in love, and I've been loved on. I've been loved real, real good. So that's not been my experience at all, child. So no, not for me. When he said it, I was kind of like, okay, what you mean by that? So another thing, me and Mario have a separate conversation, and I'm talking to him, and when I start asking him, like, what do you mean about that? And Mario talks about how in all his race he's needed. I need you to do this. 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 Can you take care of this? Can you take care of this? So him experiencing love without him having to reciprocate anything, without him having to provide anything, was something that he was essentially talking about. He's, I've never been in love where they just just like Maurier. It's always, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I need you to pay for this, I need you to take care of that. These different things within his space. So when he said it, I was like, oh, yeah, I can see what that's like too, right? Because I've been in situations with people, not necessarily romantic, where I can tell that you're not really connected to Jessica. I can tell that you're really interested more in the idea, or I like that you hang with these people. I want to get to know them. You're here for something other than just wanting to be connected to me.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
Yeah. That's rough. Okay. Well, that explains why he would say that. But I think this is just Crystal's opinion. Whenever I have that experience, I feel like, because I know a lot of very successful men, and some of them have that experience, but it's also because they lead with what they can do, right? And so they never.
And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Like in even in some of the dating experiences here, and even on this show, I asked on both of my dates, I asked, who are you without your stuff? Mm-hmm. Without your job, without your title, with all these, who are you without your stuff?
Yeah.
Because that's who I want to know. Because I gotta fall in love with where you are, and not with the potential of what I think you can do. Or what I think because my potential of you may not be your potential of yourself. And then I'm frustrated the whole time because you did not live up to what I've created in my own mind. So that's why I asked the question, who are you without yourself? To get to understand it, because a lot of guys, I feel unfortunately that a lot of men were raised to lead with festivities, if you know what I mean, and finances. Right. And that everything else will be taken care of, not really loving the totality of the person from a mental, spiritual, and so I don't think a lot of our men of color, Black men, were raised with that idea in mind.
No, I agree. And unfortunately, the narrative from a lot of women, specifically younger women, because they haven't seen that, is that that's what a man is good for. So it's a lot of negativity in our culture that I think conversations like this and even shows like this can help to kind of combat that. Because if we look at what the narrative is, specifically on social media, there's so many young women that are like, what can you do for me? I want the bag. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? So that creates a thought process for a young man that's like, I got to give her this so she'll like me, especially if it's the girl that I want. I got to win her over with my money. And then later, like you were talking about earlier, if you win a woman over with your money and she's with you because of the money and you're with her because of what she looks like, years later, when you got to take care of somebody, if you're with someone for the money, you're not going to want to take care of them when they're sick. And if you're with someone for their looks, child, please. So
it looks fake, and that's why, and it's even harder when you run up on somebody who don't need your money or don't care about your money.
That's true.
Because now, what do you have to tell me? Like, oh well, I don't need you to buy me anything. I don't need you to take care of nothing. I literally just want to like and enjoy you as a person, because I want to have fun when we go on vacation. Like, are you going to do karaoke with me? Like, are you there's a scene, me and Red, like literally spitting Jeezy bars back and forth at the hoedown. Of course, they didn't show that because they were showing them fun, so we're having this whole back and forth, but I want to see the depth of the person. So if it's only about you paying for dinner dates and paying my rent, like,
it's not, that doesn't lead to, that's not real connection. A lot of people settle for that, but that's not real connection. So let's talk about the other connection, because I will be honest with you, Jessica. Mm-hmm. I thought you guys were so cute. Like, initially at the hoedown, I was like, we're looking, we're hoping that there's going to be a connection. And he presents well. He was definitely the best dressed. You are a very beautiful woman, and you obviously have your stuff together. It did make sense on paper, and that at the hoedown, it looked like, you guys were definitely locked in. I was like, she's letting everybody know, look, I am escorting him around.
You like that, right? Because he had to leave, right? And so I'm like, he got to leave.
Yeah.
It's me in the wilderness right now. I need y'all to go on and lay this on the altar and put two and two together so that he can stay a little longer.
He can stay till next week. No, I got that. I was like, I see. And it really did make sense on paper. What in the world happened that caused you guys' connection to go so far left that and again, I am not making excuses, because how he spoke to you was just like beyond disrespectful. It's abomination for a man to talk to a woman, like anybody to talk to anybody like that. But he did seem like he was extremely hurt. Like it was like he looked like he was tearing up. So, just from your perspective, what the hell happened to you guys? Because even when it was his ex, it just seemed like things went worse and kept getting just went out of control. And it ended up really badly. So where do you think the breakdown first happened?
I'll just walk through the entire experience. So we'll just start from the beginning.
Okay.
So in the beginning, and I think you probably see it, and if it was in the mixer, you know, if you saw I was the first one to come in, we were the first two to meet. And even then you can see I have a very chill personality,
Yeah.
right? Like I come in, he was like, I said, thank you, child. Help me on down the stairs. Like it's hot. It was hot. It's hot out here. This dress ain't got no split. I can't move. Like, help me out, child. I'm struggling. And so it kind of ended there. And so it was, you know, oh my God, you're dope. I like that you're a boss. You're doing this, you know. So I'm like, oh, whew, okay, cool. I don't have to worry about this person being concerned because some men are initially intimidated when you tell them that you know you got your own thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, cool. And even in the commentary, he'll say, you know, she takes care of things. She was on top of it. I like to shoot all of these things. So I'm like, okay, I can be my whole self. I don't have to hold back. I can just do this. We can work. And so I thought that's what it was. And, you know, and we just started going from there. And then we had the lunch date. And it's so funny because some of my homeboys texted me afterward and it was like, you taking somebody lunch, you know, you fake. That ain't nothing you because it's not. And they organized things, but initially that was supposed to come my way. And I was like, I can't, you know, it's a warehouse day. Ain't nothing here attractive. Like, I'll take whatever.
Right.
So we did that. And when we got there, you know, one thing I'm very big on is verbiage. So if you hear me, the conversation was about doubts. Okay. And I said to him, I said, I don't want to say doubts. I want to say moments of pause. Because for me to say that I have a doubt about you, I feel it's very strong and I don't know you that well. I said, so how about we say moments of pause? So early on, I'm letting it be very clear that I have concerns around how we both agree how people should communicate, right?
Okay.
So that was that. So at that date, I said, well, do you have any concerns, you know, any doubts, this and the third with me? And he says, no. Okay. And I said, okay, well, I have a few concerns with you. And not even concerns, but like my little doubts or whatever. I said, I have concerns that, you know, you're not as consistent. And then he says, well, I can say the same thing about you. And I was like, okay. And I said, now another one I have is I feel like, you know, when we communicate on the phone and then like when we get to dates, it's just a little different, you know, and well, I could say the same thing about you. And, you know, for me, I want from out, and I said, I didn't bring this up to you for us to have a back and forth. I brought this to you just to kind of show you that these are some things I feel like I'm an over communicator, like over communicator. I literally had a spreadsheet for the show for everybody with all this stuff because I couldn't remember all of this, right? So that's just how I am. And so I put that together. So I said, you know, that's fair. My only concern is when I asked you if you had anything with me, you said no. But now that I'm sharing things with you, you do, right? Like if you do, fine. But I don't want it to be where it's now we're having this back and forth, right? So then that's when he says, you know, I like for my woman to talk to me in a softer tone, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, because I just asked you 5 minutes ago and none of this stuff came up.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. And so when they cut it, it's like she didn't take that feedback. Well, and I'm like, well, that's not how that happened. So that's her words, because that's actually the day when we're talking about children. I was telling him I used to be a foster parent for some of my students, and he was talking about, you know, all this other kind of stuff. So that even that date was much longer than the clips that they wanted to air, you know. So that was there. So that was one. And so, but even there afterwards, I would get a text, so good to see you. Thanks for lunch. We had a good time, you know, whatever. And so I was like, okay, you know, this is fine. We can just kind of move on to the next thing. So then we had our next date, and there was a date that they didn't air that was in there, and it was really cool. We had a really good time. We took pictures after the date. We got videos. Didn't think nothing of it, right? So in the lounge, I started talking about, I said, you know, this date went well, this whatever. And then I think fast forward to the lounge with Kira, when me, Kira, and we're all in that lounge. I had a red dress. And I told Tommy, I said, Tommy, I'm going to put some distance a little bit between us
Mm-hmm.
because what he's telling me and what I'm experiencing with him are two different things.
Okay.
And I said, for me, I believe if you when you keep people too close, you can't see them good. I don't know if you ever heard old folks say that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so I'm gonna set a little distance because I want to make sure that what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, are two of the same. I'm not seeing the same. It's not consistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fine. So I'm your number one connection because at this we're number one connections, the two of us, the entire process,
right?
The majority of process reach on. And so, but I'm not hearing from you. Like you're not calling me. Like it'll be a text on interview day or a call you on filming day. But like during this process, I'm not hearing. But I'm in the lounge hearing that you calling somebody else all day long. But I'm your number one connection. So I'm like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I
calling all day long.
He was calling some of the other girls. He was calling one of the other girls.
Okay.
So I was like, okay. So remember too, he said I could call more, right?
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, I'll start calling more. Maybe that will be the thing is that he's a reciprocator.
Right.
Like granted, the chase thing is not something I've really been interested in, which is something I hated about this process, but I'll do my part because I'm trying to do things different to get to a different outcome. So fine. So I was doing that. So there we start doing that. So that went forward. We have another day because we're still each other's number one connection now.
Mm-hmm.
I do all the way through. So then I think the next date we had was back up on that lunch date too. On the lunch date, I said he called me a boss, and I was like, and then he said strong Black woman, and I said, I literally, now I'm on it. I stopped. I said, can we stop? I said, can you please not use that verbiage because it sends out this energy that she's strong. Everything that you hear about that, I don't want that to be the thing because I don't want other men feeling like she's strong. She's like, I don't like that, right?
Right.
So we went back in and he said it again. He said, I'm gonna say what I want to say. Okay. All right. So if I would pop off, we're on camera again now, right? So he said he wanted to say. I was like, okay, all right. Well, I guess he checked me. It's a little turn on here, whatever. That's kind of where that went. So we're moving on. We're still dating. So I think the next date we had was probably one I remember the most is probably the ex date.
Yes.
And mind you, no, not the ex date. It was the improv date.
Yes.
We went on the improv date, and we were all at the improv date. We were doing our little improv thing. We took pictures and everything at the improv date. And after, I thought the improv date was fine because the group that we had to play was I was an angry. We were a couple, and I was the angry wife because he wrecked the car.
So you were supposed to be angry.
That was our scenario.
Gotcha. Because it just seemed like you were angry for no reason.
No.
Right. Okay.
Why would I be? It doesn't make any sense.
We did not know, but
yeah. So that was our scenario. So Herbert and Sierra had the scenario with the baby in the hospital. Ours was a car accident, angry wife, and he wrecked my car. So that was our whole thing. So we're doing, the whole piece around it, whatever. His thing was, can we come to a resolve? My thing was, are you going to take care of me now that I'm beat up and I can't move? Right. And understanding my background, you will understand why that was an area of focus for me, right? Okay. So we went through that whole thing, went through the date, took pictures, laughed, whatever. And then, matter of fact, even after that date, let me see. After that date, we went through it. He texted me thereafter and was like, you look amazing. It's right here.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, thank you. Likewise, thought that the date went well, right? Even prior to that, at the hold down, we both had some things to do because if you notice, I'm not in the first part of the hold down date. I'm not there at all. Right. I had something to do when he had to leave early. Right. So he called me before we were talking about, how we're going to move through this. And we just had a genuine conversation about a bunch of things. Thank you for your transparency every time we link. I just got home. You made me feel good and okay today. But I'm angry, but I'm aggressive, but I'm all these other things when you do your filming and your confessionals. But this is what you're texting me. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm getting different things. It's not aligning with what you're saying and how we're showing up on these dates, right? Like, why would I have attitude? So then we had the girlfriend, the ex date. We had the ex date. And when we get in, that date was long, girls. Me, him, and Aries. We went into the date. I went in, I wasn't loud. I don't have strong vocal cords. I
Mm-hmm.
went in and I said, "Hey, party people, I'm here. The party can get started." Fun, cheer. And I've been doing this all season.
Mm-hmm.
Like every day I typically come in, "Hey, black people, whatever, whatever, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
So when we get in, we sit down and you could just feel like it was just tight. And I was like, "Woof." Okay. So we're sitting here and we're going back and forth in terms of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's sharing her things and she's sharing mine, this and the third. And I said, Aries had asked a question prior. I said, "What did you ask?" She said, "I asked Chris how he sees me showing up in his life."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, that's a good one. How do you see me showing up?" And he said, "Well, I feel like you can do a good job with my work clients and scheduling meetings, and you haven't been." And I said, "Yeah, that's more 9 to 5, Jessica. I'm looking for like, what's the romantic or whatever, whatever." I said, "This is giving very much Christmas card energy." And it is. Listen, like I'm in all the black everythings. Okay. I was raised in all the black affluent groups. That Christmas cards you get with the couple where they really don't like each other and their kids can't stand each other. They got all the matching shirts and tennis shoes and their dog. Like,
Yeah.
that picture. And so I was like, this is giving very much Christmas card energy, like whatever. So we went back and he said, "Is that better?" I said, "It's more like a Hallmark film, but we'll get there in a minute, right?" So okay, we went on. So we had a date afterwards, and I even called Aries. I was like, "How you feel about that?" And she was like, "The energy definitely shifted when you came in." I was like, "You think so?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, whatever." Didn't think nothing about it. Went on about my business, whatever, whatever. And so then that lounge.
Well, hold
After
on.
that,
Let's go back to that date with the ex. Were you turned off by what the ex's experience was with him? Because it looked like, well, first of all, it looked like the ex was bitter still about the fact that she was like a servant. That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like to us. And that looked like it really turned you off, which it would turn anybody off to hear that she had no life. Like she she was there to serve him. What were your thoughts on that? And did you say anything about it?
well, she said, I said, "Well, how long y'all together?" She said 5 years.
Yeah.
And then she talked about, as women, we have to be very selfish with our time, particularly if we want to, do other things in life. And mind you, I'm doing this egg retrieval thing, right? So I'm thinking
Right.
it's still, I'm like, heck yeah, girl, like I can't do 5 years.
Right.
I ain't doing 5 years at a job. So I definitely can't do 5 years without no commitments, right? So
Amen.
I don't know her to say she was bitter. I
Right.
don't know her to say that, right? If that was what the viewers got, then so be it. But I don't know her to feel that way, right? I think I think I might, have some type of way if I was with you for 5 years and then now you're saying you want to be married by the end of the year, or within a year to someone else. I might be bothered,
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, but I cannot say that that's where she was because I don't know her to make
But
that
I,
assumption.
I was really talking more about her saying that she was just like serving him. Like it's like her whole.
Yeah, girl. Now that was interesting because I had never heard that before.
Okay.
So I always heard the conversation. And I think, but that's important too. Something I learned about this show is understanding other people's definitions of words,
Facts.
you know, understanding what that means to you. So someone saying, "Take care of me," I did not process her saying servitude. I did
Yeah.
not see, I didn't see that energy, right?
Right.
So when she said it, I'm like, "Whoa, girl, what?" And
Wait.
then, and she said, "In complete servitude." And I was like,
Yeah. I mean,
"Oh, now what? Like this sounds
yeah.
like some slave language. What you over there doing?" Because like I don't know. So I'm trying to gather this all together while she's talking.
Yeah.
And so she's talking about the servitude. She's talking about these things, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I don't know about this."
Mm-hmm.
And so we're sitting there, I'm listening, and I'm like, I got questions, like what's going on. And so I start asking her, and like I said, the date was a lot longer. We talked about a few other things, and I'm just kind of like, okay, so what else she got going on? How did this go? How did that go? How did that show up? This is looking.
It's just people saying to like the chat. That's all.
Yeah. So I was just like, was that so? It really just kind of made me think twice. So I was like, well, I don't know if we're gonna align in that space. One, I can't cook, so you ain't gonna be getting too many things off of service because you're gonna be starving over here. So,
Right.
like, what other things were you thinking? And when I asked her, what does serving look like? Because serving can be different to different people.
Facts.
You see what I'm saying? Like, is it just taking care of him? Is it emotional? What? She said all of them. And I said, okay. Well, what did you get from him in return?
Right.
And she said, I didn't get anything.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like,
Yikes.
that's interesting. But I remembered in our conversations how he financially took care of things for her, right? And
Okay.
so that's when I start putting these things together. That's what their version of it is. But I also, like I mentioned earlier in this interview, when you think about the totality of a person, finances is so minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Like if
Yeah.
I'm having a rough day with my mental, or for me in business, like I'm pitching people all the time to put
Yeah.
our stuff on shelf. How can you as my partner come in when I get that 15th no, or that, to say we're not interested in you, and reaffirm me and tell me, girl, go out there and do it one more time.
Yeah.
So for me, I noticed we're looking for different things. And I
Right.
even mentioned that in the lounge, and one of the ladies was like, well, is he paying for everything? And I was like, yeah, but that ain't what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fortunate that I am blessed.
Yeah.
My mother left a blessed inheritance for me. My father does her, like, I don't, those things are not top of mind for me. Yeah.
Let me ask you this really quickly. Do you if you met someone who was not as financially secure as you, are you comfortable being with a man that you may out earn significantly?
The thing is this, we can always make more money.
We
I
can.
can make you a better person.
That's true.
Like, I mean, listen, like, let's be honest. In the era of social media, we can get on TikTok and grow a following off of God knows what, eating
Yeah.
ramen noodles. Like, you can always get more money, but I can't make you a better person.
Right.
And I think that's sometimes what people miss is like, well, I ain't worried about all that. Like, what kind of person are you at your core? Because that's not going to change with or without money. That who you are is who you are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fair. But every woman is different. Every woman is different.
But I think you have to experience. I've dated a man who made buku money, corporate counsel for the automotive industry, like
No.
really, really well, buku money.
Yeah.
Sits first chair at his firm.
Okay.
And I was with him for 2 years, and I can count all the stuff I have, but I can tell you every last one of my events that he missed.
Yeah.
I can tell you all the times where he wasn't there. Like, I've seen both sides. And so if it were me, I'd rather pick the better person and we can get money together than picking this unicorn of a something and just, I'm only showing up with him at galas and dinner parties. Like, it's fun, but after a while it's boring.
Yeah. And it doesn't lead to the type of relationship that will give you the end result that you want. You know what I mean?
And like I said before, it's Christmas card. Like, I was raised around that. So I have plenty of friends, parents as material to say case studies.
Yeah.
This is not what I want.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. So how do we even that? It just doesn't, we still don't understand how it got from feeling like there might have been some distance to being so angry for him to say, you don't know anything about me, F you and everything you stand for. Like, what in the world happened? And I'll just say, quite honestly, there's people saying that there was some accusations made about him, not necessarily maybe through you, but through a friend of yours that maybe he was responding to. And you don't have to go into that. I just want to know what caused that reaction.
Accusations?
Accusations. That's just what the streets are saying.
About Chris?
About Chris? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, no.
That wasn't what caused him to get upset.
I respect people. I respect that man's a business owner. More importantly, that man got kids.
Right.
Like, come on now. That's wild.
Yeah.
But that, and I don't even feel that that's a whole nother can of worms. Like, I don't feel that was what she was doing, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah, I don't even need to go. I just meant, do you think that affected that scene? Because it just seems so out of character for him to address you like that.
So after the friend date, we went on a friend date. And we had the friend date. We went through the whole experience there, and he came in with an attitude at the friend date, like came in irritated.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, you having a bad day? Like, what happened? And me and my two friends tried to talk to him, what's going on. He was going back and forth for production about something, and then they came back and we reset the room and did the thing.
Okay.
All right, fine. So at the end of it, I felt like it was just something was just off, right? So instead of me assuming, I called him.
Okay.
I said, hey, how's your day going? You know, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, yeah, I got to the part with what, I got to the part where I said, you know, I wanted to talk to you a little bit because I felt like your energy was off. Mm-hmm. And he responds is, so that's what you called me for. You didn't really catch on me. You didn't really care about my day. You didn't really see how I was doing. You just want to get to your question and see what, and I was like, so you want me to just call and just jump in? So that was the first exchange of him getting kind of heated with me on the phone. And I was like, no, I did care about your day, mm-hmm. but I do also want to know why this particular thing, what you're upset about. And so at this time I'm on the phone and one of the producers is coming out. So I roll my window down so that I have a witness that this is, you know, this is on the phone. It was going on the call. And so I ended the call, and after that, and I called Janelle and I was like, girl, can you believe what just happened? And then that was the end of it. So that was there. So that was a friend date. And I was just like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. Like this is just not gonna work. So I would say, and I had already told them too prior, because this is the lounge when I had on the pink. And I said, you know, I'm going to disconnect from him, okay, and I'm going to allow for him to love these other ladies.
Okay.
I literally said that. So I said, I'm going to disconnect from him and allow for him to love these other ladies. He came in with an attitude. I don't feel like this is going well. I'm not seeing, you know, the consistency. He's saying this, but he's doing that. Like, I just don't feel like this is a genuine connection anymore. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go ahead and let it go. So now I'm down to one connection because I'm not picking up another one for the sake of being here. So now I'm done. So I said that. And so then afterwards, I think we do, and I told production then too, going into the cast trip, I said, listen, I don't feel like the two of us need to be connected. I'm not doing no more dates. I'm not having any conversation. So dead it. Like, this is done. This is over. That's the end of it. So even at the cast trip, when I make that comment about the whole gender roles things, I'm not talking to him. I'm talking to one of the other ladies who had kept asking me, Jessica, join in, just because I'm not engaging. Mm-hmm. No, we want to hear your perspective. In that moment is when I provided my perspective on, you know, what we're doing. And they played it to make it look like me and him were going back and forth. But I wasn't talking to him because I had said, I'm not going to be talking to you. Like, throughout the house, it was, hey, how are you? Excuse me, whatever. Like, the entire time, I'm not going to be talking to you.
Did he know that you had decided we're done?
I didn't feel like the reason to communicate that with him because we're not communicating.
Okay.
Like, why would I call? Oh, by the way, I'm just letting you know I ain't talked to you in God knows how long. But by the way, I'm done connecting with you. Or like I said, at this point, it's just you got to interview. You text me here, you text me there. Like I called him a couple. Like is fugazi. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like you're genuinely interested in me. I feel like you connected with me and you just trying to walk through this process.
Yeah.
I don't feel because. I can't be your number one connection and you're not calling me, but you're calling other people and they're not your number one connection. It just doesn't make sense. Like the math don't math.
Right. So that with you telling production that, were you upset with them for asking you to be the one to deliver the news to Chris?
Why? It doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like, you send fire to fire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you have two people who don't necessarily, that we're not connecting, we're not communicating at all. Like, we're not saying anything. We're not talking to this, that like none of that is going on. You know what I'm saying? So, and the thing that kind of irritated me with this whole thing was all the time is, I appreciate you doing this, you doing that, you taking control of things. So we had a cast meeting, right? And during the cast meeting, after that, we was talking, you know, I really appreciate how you and Janelle handled things in that meeting. Y'all was really smart. Y'all. So you telling me that you okay with me being a boss. You're telling me that you're okay with me doing all these things. But then since week 2, you dragging me for the same stuff that you telling me you appreciate. You know? So now when we're looking at the show, it's like people are saying, well, she is hard because she ain't saying nothing. She ain't hugging. Like the narration that you have of me is not from Jessica. The narration you have of Jessica is from Chris, which is not fair. Like everything that I told you, none of that made it to the floor. The only things that made it here are that. And just think, like I said, if I was negatively discussing this man in my confessionals and everything, they would have aired it because it would have made great TV.
Yeah.
Like it's just not there. And so they're not going to use anything that's not there. They can't because they didn't give it to them. So I don't even understand it. So at the cast, that elimination, I just thought it was unnecessary because you sending all of these people, everybody's kind of done bubbles and this and the third to deliver news,
Mm-hmm.
but I was the one to be able, and you don't know who you're eliminating until you get there.
Right.
So
Wow.
it's not,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, you don't know who's coming until you get there. Like they just say, meet at this place at this time, whatever, whatever, whatever. And I didn't even think, to be quite honest, I didn't know who was going. Like, just being honest, I didn't know who was going because in that lounge it was me, Janelle, and then the other three ladies. So I put him. He's not my top. Maurier was.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin's Janelle's. So that's two right there.
Yeah.
And then it went around for them, and none of them put him as their top. Somebody else put Maurier. So now Maurier has 2 votes.
Mm-hmm.
But if all of y'all are connected,
yeah. So
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. When Maurier delivered the news with you, when you were in the bottom with Sierra, and he mentioned that word, obviously you knew where that came from. And because we don't see you saying that. We see Janelle basically addressing the group about it, but we don't see you ever say anything about it. Did you say, I know where this came from?
So I had no after the elimination, we all went in the house, and that individual said, Maurier, how you feeling? And so Janelle says, no, we ain't gonna talk about Maurier, y'all, because the night before we're talking about masculinity, femininity, whatever. We're gonna talk about Jessica because it's her feelings that would have been hurt, for whatever.
Yeah.
And so we go in the house, we all sit down, and I ask everybody in there, one by one, Phil, do you feel like am I combative? Has that been your experience with me? No. And matter of fact, Phil said no, and that's not been my experience, which then made me say, oh, let me ask if that's been your experience. I went down Phil, I went down Quentin. Production tells Maurier to leave the room. They put up a little thing like leave the room. Exactly. Oh, wow. So Maurier leaves the room. So I'll go down to everyone and I said, Chris, did you say it? No, I ain't say it. I ain't say it.
He didn't say it?
I didn't say it. I said, okay. So all right. So now I'm livid. You know what I'm saying? Because in that moment you could say, yeah, I feel that way. Yeah. And let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Or whatever, even if that was your experience, right? And so for then I just get irritated and I just go off camera. Like I take my mic off. I'm done with this because at the end of the day, my reputation is very important to me. Like I'm going into very much all white spaces and I don't need the narration of that I'm combative, especially when I've not been combative with anybody to be thrown out there. And the thing is too, I think people watch it just for one episode. Since week 2, this man has called me everything but a child of God. There's not been a positive
that you were combative.
There's not been a positive anything since week 2. So I think people are saying, oh, she just mad about combative. No, I'm just tired of it.
Yeah.
It's like all the time. And I'm asking you, like, where is this even coming from? Like, how do you text me and say, I like that you're in charge, and then come back on camera and say that you don't?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make sense and it's not fair. If you don't, this show has rejection. It's inevitable.
Right.
Move on. I'm okay. It wasn't until I said I'm no longer doing dates that now we're no longer doing dates because I was still in your top.
That's crazy. I want to ask you this outside of Chris, because I asked the audience. I feel like when you ask a question, like there's this whole idea that you can't say a Black woman is combative or argumentative or aggressive. And as we've talked about on reality TV, a lot of times there are people experiencing those adjectives in different ways. I don't think that, and you could disagree with me, I'm fine with that. I don't think that there's any word that cannot be used. Now, if that's your experience, that's your experience. But I just think when we say, well, you can't say this about a Black woman, what if a person is that word? Like, I feel like everybody has the right to experience people in their own way. Now, just because you feel like that about me doesn't mean it's true. But I also think when we're dating, people experience things in different ways. So a friend of mine was like, well, it's not necessarily a woman's tone that makes her combative to me. It could be the fact that she's defensive or the fact that she has something to say. Actually, what you explained earlier with you saying, well, this is what I don't like, and someone else coming back and saying, well, I don't like this. That's a definition of combative, right? So I'm just asking you, do you think there's an issue with the word, or do you think you just don't agree with him saying that about you because you don't agree with his explanation of who you are?
I feel like if anything, if there's something that I've done, I can own it. I'm
Okay.
a big girl. I own my mess. If I was doing that, fine, right? That's fine.
Right.
I think the other thing too we think about is I think it's bothersome more so to me because I'm so particular in how I discuss Black people.
Right.
So particular in how I talk about us, right? Like I wasn't going around saying the Nigerian, given what the Nigerian stereotype that we hear about Nigerian men. I wasn't saying that because I
Right.
don't discuss you in that way. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
good.
And so me to say I'm combative, like I look at for me, I look at it differently. Like think about when they called our good sis Monique combative, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that about her. We see her on TV. We see you're in the industry, so just take it off, right? We don't know that about her. We see her on TV, whatever. But after that label got put out about her, what movies did we see her in? It literally stopped her income. That one word literally sent out a dog whistle to people that maybe this person's not the easiest to work with. We have other people with other things around it. My only thing is, if that was your experience, fair. But when were you going to say that?
Yeah.
I've been asking you, like, when was that your experience? So I personally felt like it was a smear campaign. Like, I can't get anything else, so let me throw something up here. I know she's passionate about this. I know this bothers her. Let me throw something out here into the orbit that will stick and make people say, well, maybe she is. Am I firm? Yes. Am I direct? Absolutely. Am I no nonsense? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But am I combative? Am I argumentative? No, like even when he said, well, I can say the same thing, I said, okay.
Yeah.
Even when we had the lunch day, well, I want you to do this. Okay. I have no problem receiving feedback. Like I have an amazing board of directors around me in my personal life that critique me on the daily. That's not the problem. But what you're not going to do is get up here and say, I don't have a problem with you. Kiki with me via text. Tell me all the things you like, and then get up here on national TV and be like, oh, yeah, by the way, you combative. And then when I ask you about it directly to your face, you say, no, I didn't say it.
Yeah.
So
that is crazy. I don't, we can, like I said, we can agree to disagree. I don't think that word is what caused Monique not. I know it's not. I know personally it's not.
I can find 50 other examples, right? But my point is, when we put that verbiage out around women of color, it has different implications for us than it does for other people. And for me, as a business owner, when you're putting stuff out there like that, and again, like I said before, the only narration that you have of me is what this person's been saying.
Right.
They've not aired anything that I've told you about me as a person.
Right.
So all you have to work with is this.
Right.
So if the one time that I stand up for myself in the lounge, there she is. She's coming. No, I'm not. I'm clearly saying that this was my experience. You jumped in my conversation. I responded to you. You see what I'm saying? Is what other people want to interpret. And I think that's the thing about it. And it just irritated me because I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I literally took off my mic, went to the back room. I'm out of here. Like y'all can figure this out on your own, reshape your narration of your story. I'm done. Like I'm done with this, which is why you don't see me anymore. Like I'm done. I'm tired of this. And they're, oh no, let's try to make it work. Blah, blah, blah. No, I don't want to participate in this anymore. It's crazy. And then even afterwards, I said, they had us all bring things that told us about who we are as a person. Right. Okay. I said, okay, fine. I said, hey, can we go ahead and do the activity? Because I would like to explain, who I am more and why this is about, because I know I'm quiet. I know I'm not sharing a whole lot with these people.
Right.
I think this is great. You know what they said? No, we want to continue to combative narrative, the conversation around this.
Oh, wow.
I text again. Can we have a conversation? I want us to move. I don't want this to be a thing. I want us to move on. Can we bring our gifts and do our activity that you guys had planned for us? We'll chat back in a few. I just eventually went to sleep. So that's how it ended.
What did you bring to share about yourself?
I I brought a poster of one of my students that he made for me. His name was David Gould.
Mhm.
This is my first year teaching in Cincinnati. So I did AmeriCorps, so similar to Peace Corps, but I did AmeriCorps. So I was living there, and he was one of my favorite students, and he wanted to be a comedian, and so he was just always into goofy stuff. He wasn't a troublemaker, but he was really smart. So anyway, I told him, I said, "You just do your thing. I'm gonna help you go to college, whatever, whatever." He got accepted. He was so excited, and he was the first student I got placed in a a job shadowing, like a creative job shadowing program. He got
Mhm.
placed, and he was working. He was doing really well, and I take care of a lot of my students. Like I take care of a lot of my students. You see the one on the show, like they are. I love my babies, right? And David, David was short some money on something, and David felt like it was the best time for him to decide that he wanted to dabble in alternative activities. And
I didn't see that going there. I didn't see
David
that.
David started selling weed and
Okay.
ended up getting murdered. And so I used to I started the job shadowing program because I noticed that a lot of kids I worked with didn't have jobs in the summer, and it led them to do different things. And I had a lot of connections in the corporate space who would allow my kids to come in and work with them. And so I really took it to heart that at that time I did not have it to give to him so that he did not have to feel like that was something that he needed to do.
Mm.
And so he had made this poster about his experience, and it's called Success for Teens. And he had wrote this whole thing about how he was going to be successful and all this other kind of stuff. So even with Ezra now, like every Ezra means he who helps. And so we have a scholarship. So every year I award scholarships to kids who are in financial insecurity. And so we sent kids this year to Howard University, Southern University, and Alabama State University as a part of the business. And so I incorporate that because it goes back to very much of who I am in my core with my babies. Like one thing on the lunch day we talked about was I told Chris how this is the first time I'm 38, first time probably in my life that I lived by myself in my house by myself for
Mhm.
more than 2 years. Because I always had one of my kids or former students, Miss Taylor, I need to stay with you, or I need to all the time. So I brought that, and because it's showing another side of me, but my kids are very instrumental and they're very important. I'm very connected with many of them still. I've named many of their babies and been to all the baby showers. So that's what I brought was his post and just kind of walked through his experience. But he was one of my favorite people. He was freaking hilarious. And I know that if he was still here, he would be on Kevin Hart level as it relates to comedy. But him going through that program made me see that the ideas I created and things I came up with were actually tangible and they can actually be done because he went through it and he made it work. So
Yeah.
that's what I brought. So this is tattered up poster. It looks a hot mess, but I've carried it with me since 2008,
Mhm.
and I still have it with me now.
Wow. Well, one of the things that the comments, the chat. First of all, can I shout you guys out tonight? You guys have been so supportive. There's over 800 people in the chat tonight supporting, and I appreciate that. And definitely have enjoyed the conversation. And one of the things that I've seen people saying, and I've noticed it, Jessica, is that you light up when you talk about your students, and I
Yeah,
do wish that we got a chance to see that side of you. But I also think that Ready to Love is about dating, and most of the cast members complain about the fact that they don't get a chance to show the other side of them, right? Because if it's a narrative about dating and it's an hour-long show, and there's what it starts out with like 18 people,
20, yeah, 20 people.
that we don't get a chance to see the side. But I also think I'm blessed to be able to do this because we get a chance to see the other side, right? And I also think that as a career woman and a very ambitious woman, the most beautiful side of you that we've seen tonight is when you've been talking about the children that you obviously are really passionate about. Even more so, you're obviously on your business, but when you're talking about Ezra, you're very focused. When you talk about your students, you're smiling, and that beautiful energy is coming through. And I think that's what it would have been great to have seen that. But I also think that's probably whoever you're interacting with on a real level outside of reality TV is going to get a chance to see that. So I thank you for sharing that with us during this interview. That
Yeah.
I think allowed us to see another side. It's unfortunate,
Yeah,
um, how that went, but that's not the totality of who you are. And and
you
I,
know.
like I said, I appreciate you coming and showing us this side. Um, is Let me ask you this, because I guess it is still a mystery to us what happened in that conversation during Chris's elimination that caused him to just go off like that. Do you feel like it had more to do with production than you?
For production from what standpoint?
I mean, just why he was that angry. Do you think he was just angry about getting eliminated and felt like you were behind it? Or what do you think caused him to be that just hateful and angry, with his words that way?
Um, mm, I wouldn't say that there was. So I'll just walk you through the series of events. Like I don't know if there was a one thing. I will say I think it's pretty clear that we can all see, even in his commentary, that there are people going back from the lounges repeating information to you. We can clearly see that, right? Like okay,
Yeah.
so that's very obvious.
Hmm.
So and it's been going on for a while. So I peeped it earlier, but I
Hmm.
couldn't confirm it. But
Okay.
in this date, I was able to confirm it. So I'm here. I'm like, it's interesting you're saying this. The thing about it is when you're repeating things from the vantage point of your lived experience with that person, right? And
Hmm.
you're also repeating it from what you want that other person to receive it as. And
Right.
I think even when we look at this show, and you know, I've not been doing no interviews because I don't need to get in front of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not a narrative that I need to jump in front of. Like it is what it is. What's out there is out there. I don't need to clear the air. I'm who I am. So I think when we think about that, it's always who can get to the punch first to
Hmm.
start get the story out so that you can now be on team whoever. So at this particular thing, we went to the elimination day. We got there and I saw it was him. I was like, okay, whatever. I never saw it going the way that it did. Let's just be
Okay.
very clear about that. I never saw it going the way it did. We sat down, we start talking, and what I said was very early on, because mind you, we have not spoken since the friend day.
Hmm. Okay.
They should be, but they're not. That's the whole point. They're not. That's why it's so much mess behind the scenes, because people are hearing things from just all over.
Hmm.
Like, and when you're sharing mess, you're sharing things differently. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We played a game at the house, the cast house, a telephone game.
Hmm.
Even in that telephone game, of all of us sitting at the table,
Yeah, it got
by
messed
the
up.
time it got to me, it was completely different from how it started out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Completely different, right?
Right.
So that's the thing. Like when you're sharing that, you're not sharing it in what you want. You're sharing what you want that person to know. And
Right.
mind you, we all started out as friends. Okay. Well, not friends. I'll say cool. Everybody was cool for the most. Like we had a group chat, everything. So people been talking and saying stuff, whatever. So we sit and I said, hey, let's just have a conversation. Like elimination stuff aside, let's just have a conversation.
Hmm.
Because clearly there is some tension between the two of us. There's some things back here that let's just talk it out.
Hmm.
Um, and he starts off and he's like, what did you say about gender roles? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, you said something about gender roles. And I was like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, what do we say? What do we say? What do we say? And I'm like, the game. Okay. I said, if you remember, I wasn't participating with y'all that much in the game. And I was like, but I think and I'm thinking again, I'm like, what could I possibly say? What could I possibly say? And there was another conversation we were talking about the gender roles around women being at home barefoot and pregnant.
Yes.
And so I was like, it's been a lot. I'm not going to say I didn't say it because I don't remember it. Do
Mhm.
I agree with it? Yes. So I can say that. But I don't recall if I said that. I don't remember that, right?
Right.
But I said, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, yeah. I said, because the other part of the conversation, Ginger, I said, I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't talking because I personally felt in that conversation that they had already came to a resolve
Right.
20 minutes prior, yet they just kept going around the same thing. Like, and I'm a person, I don't enjoy being cut off.
Hmm.
So I'm just not going to engage where I don't feel like my conversation is going to be heard. So we talked about that. And then he asked me another question. And we just going back and forth. At this point, it's just back and forth of conversation. Like nothing's going on. And then he said, I'm literally trying to remember this because I don't want to misspeak on anything that he or I may have said. But I know at one point he said something. He said, "You and Janelle conspiring to get rid of me." And I said, "Conspiring? That's an interesting word for you."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that word was said earlier that day in the lounge.
Okay.
So for him to repeat it back to me verbatim like that, I already know where it
Somebody.
came from. I know
Yeah.
where it came from. So I said, I said, "That's your source? That's your source. Like
Mm-hmm.
all of this anger, that's your you could have just came and asked me like what you was upset about or had whatever you had to say.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing. And so we're sitting there and we had a few more like back and forth about conversations or whatever. And then the source piece came back. And then that's why I see him getting angry. And so I'm like, I'm a disengage, like just clearly upset. So he starts talking about that's when he says, "You don't know about me." He talks about the death of his father and, this other stuff. And I'm like, what does any of this have to do with me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you talking? Like, none of this has anything to do with me, right? And this is the same incident we had in the car when I called after the friend date. Like, you going off of it all. None of this has anything to do with me. It's just like you just throwing spaghetti at the wall. So
Mm-hmm.
he's going on and he was like, you don't know this, you don't know that. I carry my country on my back, blah, blah, blah. And he's just going, like just spit firing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sitting there and not giving anything. And so
Mm-hmm.
he's keep going, keep going. And then he says, you, that's when he says, "Oh, I disrespected him." I said, when have I disrespected you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
give me an opportunity when I have disrespected you. Like, you can't give me one. Just like these people cannot give you a single opportunity of when I was mean to them. Not
Mm-hmm.
one. 12 people. No
Yeah.
one has anything. I find it to be very interesting. So he said, "I feel this, I feel that." And so he starts talking about his family and whatever, whatever, whatever. And I'm still like, I don't know where this is going. And so he was like, "I have a daughter and I'm trying to respect." And I said, "Would you want your daughter talking to you? How you talking to me?" And he was like, blah, blah, blah. And so that's when he goes, "You don't know shit about me." And I'm like, all right, bro. Like now I'm getting here. Like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, bro. Like, all right, let's wrap this up. So
Mm-hmm.
he jumps up and he, pops off and says all what he would say, whatever, whatever, whatever. And he goes through his whole little tirade, and then he stands up because
Mm-hmm.
if you look at my head, I'm going like this. You'll see now that I'm no longer looking at you head on. I'm looking at you at an angle,
Mm-hmm.
because why would I look at you at an angle if you're not standing up? Like, come
Right.
on, I'm serious. And then production comes in, hold, and exactly walks him out because at this point he's crying. Walks him out. We sit for like 20, 30 minutes before they have to come back, reset the scene, and then pick it up again. Yeah. So all of this like didn't happen, whatever. Like, what do I have to lie for? I done came and showed y'all every receipt that I have. There's no reason for me to lie. What do I gain from it? Like, I don't get paid for this,
Yeah.
you know? So he does this whole thing and he comes back in and he sits down and he goes, what did he say? I said, "Are you okay? Are you done?
Mm-hmm.
Are you better?" Okay, so let's move forward. Cause now it's back to business. Like, I can't emotionally get invested in this, right?
Right.
Because then I'll be screaming, hollering, and cussing and everything else. And
Right.
I wasn't raised like that. So I was like, let's just get back to business. Like, let's move on. And so, and in that prior, hold on, before they walked him out, because that's what they want to say, walked him, carried him, escorted, whatever verbiage, walked him out the room. Because these people, they play so much with these words, like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say security. I said product." Like, did somebody walk you out? Yes or no? Yes. Like, it's semantics. So they did that. They walked out or whatever. And before he left out, he said, "You think you better than us using your big words to talk down to us." Where did I hear that from? Let's back it up to the hoedown. When they were picking people to do the elimination from the hoedown, the conversation was, because I did that off the cuff. There were no notes. There was no teleprompter. That was off the top of the dome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you talk well, whatever, whatever, whatever. Remember, Chris was already gone.
Yeah.
So how would that be the verbiage that you come back with? Boom. Okay, so I'm picking this up, right? So you said that. Then he said, use your negotiation tactics to seem better than us, because I did tell him that I am a negotiator and I do dispute resolution, which
Okay.
is why I don't enjoy drama. I'm always trying to come to a compromise. Like, I get paid to do that on my free time. I'm outside of this. So there was that. So then he also says, you make me act like this. You bring this out of me. You make me act like this. I can't make you act like nothing. You
Yeah.
standing up here hooting and hollering is on your own. I'm chilling. I'm peace. I'm at ease.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where this Pinot came from, because it was a great glass of Pinot Grigio. So he's on this whole little tirade. They bring him out, bring him back in. Then we reset, and then we finished the conversation. He was like, "How about you just get to the part of what time you want me to say?" Okay, fine. There's no need for me to hold you here any longer than you need to be here.
Yeah.
So we're going through that whole thing. We go through that or whatever, whatever. And then I said, well, your ladies feel that you're not ready to love. And that's when he gets up and walk out. But that's not how that happened. Like, he's clearly standing up, had to be escorted. And when he gets up, you know how you get up in your chair? It's like that. It's like his chair is going back this way. He's walking out the door. And so that's why I was so pissed, because y'all can show Janelle and Tequila standing up, hooting and hollering back and forth.
Yeah.
But you can't show this over here, because it's what? A man and a woman? But I had already got understanding a little bit earlier, and I talk about like the full of all of this on my podcast, like of all the other things that were like culminating within that space. You know what I'm saying? So it just didn't bode well for all of that energy. Like, it just wasn't necessary. And I think people are looking for, a word, a statement, she said X, Y, and Z. It wasn't that. It was literally like as if you may have been upset. Like, you're getting angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier as you're talking. But the thing for me is, I'm just not engaging. Like, okay, all right, okay. And I even saw somebody on Twitter, like, maybe it's the nonchalantness.
Sometimes that can make people upset if they're if they're hurt and the person that they are talking to is being very just dismissive. That can cause you to become angrier. But I mean, still, we're all grown and we're all responsible for our own action.
But and that's what I'm saying. Like, all of that hooting and stuff. And like I said, I go like deep in depth, because me and Sierra did an episode the other day. So if you want to tune in to find out the receipts and craziness that's over there, I actually had time to put that together. That's there. But even in that moment, you know what they said? I apologize for my actions, but not my words. Telling, right? Telling that you also have another episode showing how great you are that comes out 2 days before the episode when you on here clowning. Right? Because you need to make sure that, because I mean, this podcast has been going on forever. So why now? Why this week do you want to discuss this? Why?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense, and it's just kind of like, it's just really irritating, because I feel like everybody should have been able to have their own experience.
Yeah.
And everybody should have been able to date who they wanted to date. And if that's your friend and you want to be, I'm objective. I can be friends with you and still not agree with all of your behavior.
Right.
Right. But in this particular situation is running back and forth, talking, telling folks stuff, and not even telling it in the understanding of which it was disseminated.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't even make any sense. And like, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm not talking about these people online. They got polls going on about me on social media. Do you think Jessica's combative? Yes or no? And pay attention to who started the poll. Now, when her and Janelle got into it, it's the same thing. But if I snap back and start saying something, then I'm a mean girl, right? Like, these people throw rocks and then hide their hands and be like, oh, I have no idea. I have no idea why they're trying to come for me like that.
Well, I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, that is. I don't think that's important, because it's and you're right. Social media is going to do what it does, and people go to social media to get it's silliness. But I just hated to see that scene between the two of you. But I appreciate you going into detail and explaining it to us. And if you guys, two things I want to do. I appreciate you. You've been here with us for 2 hours, which is a good
Yeah,
amount.
but so is it not important?
Well, I just mean in your experience on the show, it is important outside of that, but I think her, if we're talking about Tequila,
I
her
wasn't talking about her.
right, her opinion of what happened with you and Chris is not really important. It really is more important about your perspective and Chris's perspective. You know what I mean? Like I think that that's just hearsay at this point.
I
No,
wasn't talking about her, but I'm just saying when we're thinking about it too, this whole narrative that's been created is around people are being mean,
yeah,
right? Or
right.
people are being or talking down to you, or people are being angry with you.
Hmm.
But what's also in the same vein is if you're discussing somebody negatively on social media, if you're doing hashtag combative, if you're
Right,
trying to sell t-shirts and all of these things for someone who did not do anything to you, it
right.
only continues the narrative and the agitation of a situation that is over. And I take great umbrage with that,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Because it's disappointing. And and the thing is, there are going to be some people that will respond,
Hmm.
and then it'll start a war back and forth. And there are people like me who won't respond.
Yeah,
But in the moment when I do respond, then I'm in the wrong, you know? So I understand your point, but I just think that's also a layer to
yeah.
this experience that I know I didn't think it would be an issue.
You're right.
I didn't think that I would be discussing, or, people talking about people's deceased parents and all this
That's
other stuff. And
that
all
is
that stuff
that
is crazy.
that
Like,
is ridiculous.
it's a dating show.
It's a dating show, and at the end of the day, the women really it's really immature on everybody's part for women to be talking about women because the guys don't do that. Like we don't see any of the men talking about the men in a negative way, and I think that's we've seen that from various people. I will say to your point, we haven't seen you do that, right? So I feel like you were just kind of lumped in by association because of who you were friends with. There was a lot that happened on social media that had not that totally after you guys finished filming. That was crazy.
It was still happening this weekend. I
That's
just choose not to engage with it.
that's ridiculous. That is
It's
absolutely
literally this weekend. Like, and that's the thing. Like, it's so unnecessary.
yeah,
But it's there, and even there's even more to that elimination.
yeah,
But like I said, I talked about it on my podcast. So if people want to go and hear that and see those additional receipts and the comments back and forth, like, it's over there. But that's just not something that I don't feel any of us came to this particular platform with the expectation that that will be our
yeah.
lived experience.
Let people know where they can find your podcast if they want to.
Yep, it's So Off Script Podcast. And so you can go, we've recapped all of the episodes. And
Mhm.
then also, too, we've highlighted Black owned businesses every episode for the month of August so that you can check that out as well. So, yeah, because I feel like on this platform, I know all these amazing Black people. Let's bring them and give them some. Marketing is expensive for small businesses. So we bring them in that space as well, too. So, Black owned tequila brand, Black owned glasses, all types of things, like who did them for Community Day, that's there. But yeah, I think if they want to go and look at it, it's there. They can go check it out, look at those receipts and stuff too. But I think no one came for this, and I think we all came genuinely looking to try something and do something different in
Mhm.
terms of how we're dating, how we're approaching dating. Like, I'm queen of the cutoff, so I wanted this process because it would make me stay engaged in something a little longer than what I normally would do. So I
Right.
think that's something. And then I think another thing too is I don't appreciate how, no, I don't say appreciate, because that's different. Let's say I'm not as excited as how they've edited some of the castmates. Like, I found that there were some people who were like super dope, and we saw it just kind of
Mhm.
like how you see me, but
Mhm.
it didn't make it to air. Like Red has this whole seasoning. Like, we don't, and I know we're not here to promote our businesses, but I just think it would have been dope to see other sides of other people. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to being fixated on that one lived in moment of X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't know. Like, even with me and Kira's exchange, like I said, I still think she's funny as hell, and I
Yeah.
still think she's good for TV. Like, I don't care. I'm still gonna. I see that there's duality in
Yeah.
these.
And I think realistically, people learn and grow, right? And I think that's one of the things I believe with this show. Where you are today may not be where you are tomorrow, and we are a sum total of our experiences. So this could be a learning experience. And I feel like as Black women, we have to give each other more grace. If a person says something that is offensive, I try to figure out why are they saying that. And I know my way of looking at things is not what a lot of us would do, but I feel like that's why I do this show, because like how I thought, I'm very much like I was in my 30s, but I've grown so much. I may not react the way I did at that point because I had the opportunity to grow. So we really
Yeah,
have to stop being so judgmental towards each other, because we all grow, we all have different experiences. So, you know,
I
I
agree.
I appreciate
I
you
totally
saying
agree. I
that.
think
Yeah.
even with me looking back at myself,
Mhm.
like, Jessica, what did you learn? What are
Mhm.
things that you would do different? I do that a lot. It's a part of my reflection space, like every quarter. What
Good.
did you do different? What can you do different? How can you show up differently? Like, I didn't realize I rolled my eyes as much as I did until I got on this doggone show. Like, literally, I didn't. Like, I wasn't aware of that, right? But at the same time, I also sit within my tribe of people who probably say that's just how she is. So now seeing it, on TV, I can be like, you know what, that's something that you need to work on. You know what
That's
I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I thought too, me being quiet would kind of just allow me just to engage my people and stay out the fray, do my own 1-2 step.
Yeah.
Now I look back and say, sometimes you do need to speak up, even though you may have a difference of opinion.
Right.
But my whole thing was, like I said, the Mean Girl thing was out.
Yeah.
Right? It came out episode at whatever the lounge was. It came out there.
Mm-hmm.
It popped out. And
Yeah.
my thing was, I do not want this to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
So even though I have a point, mine is so different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to kind of jump into this because I'm very direct. It can come across as she trying to argue.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to argue, I'm just stating my opinion.
Right.
But I was kind of like, no, I'm not. Because even that question, because Kat asked me, she was like, I want to hear your opinion. You have good insight. I was like, mm-mm. She was like, no, 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 come on. I was like, mm-mm. No, 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 come. And guess what? I said how I felt, and what they do, put it over me and Chris, make it like we arguing. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't.
So editing has the ability to do that, but I think that in real life, I think people appreciate when they know that how you feel about something. It's worth maybe having the patience to explain it, because I do think you kind of got lumped up into behavior that was not definitive of your character. But it's just, you can get people. There's this old saying that we all know: birds of a feather flock together. So if I have a girlfriend that is going back and forth with someone and I seem to be in cahoots with her, it's fair that people would think that that's how I think as well, because we tend to hang around people that we agree with, especially at this point in life. I don't have a lot of girlfriends that
Yeah.
have behavior that I don't condone, because if they did, I probably wouldn't spend a lot of time with them. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, like I said, I understand where you are, but I always looked at it as people can. She want to address it, she can address it. I don't care. I'm gonna keep it pushing. Like, that's just kind of how I am. Like, even in my friend circle, I'm the more chill person. Like, I'm the clown. Which is funny that that's not shown because I'm the clown,
yeah,
and my other friends are a little bit more serious. But my thing is, I still feel that there can be a difference in how people see things. You know what I'm saying? Janelle is the type of person, if you pop off on Janelle, it's coming right back to you, right? Like, that's going to be it. And I feel that that's her personality. And what's
yeah.
so crazy is all of them were Team Janelle in the beginning.
Mm.
Everybody was loving Janelle. They exchanging. Let me get your contact. Let's do this. Oh, because I wore some of Janelle's dresses because I went to Fashion Week because she had an exhibit there last year. I had on some of her dresses. Oh, I didn't know that you had clothes. Oh, let me get. So they're doing all of this stuff with her.
Yeah.
But when there is an experience with Janelle and one of them, and they don't, or she may don't like her, whatever may take place, then is America's Most Wanted. You know what I'm saying? And so even when I told you about that one situation, they played the aftermath, but they don't play the lead in.
Yeah.
And so it's gonna always look like she's popping off, but in some of it, she's responding. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
And
And so,
that's fair. That's fair. We know that there are always, like they say, three sides to a story. Your
yeah,
side,
and like I
her
said,
side, and then the
that's their experience, and I think too is just
yeah.
some different people respond differently. Like, and I
They do.
understand the whole birds of a feather, but
Yeah.
understanding too in hindsight, I'm watching this when y'all are. So
Yeah.
when they tell us to sit together, I'm like, okay, cool. Anything
Yeah.
that I
No,
didn't think that she's not
that's
gonna look.
tricky. That's tricky on production side. But I will
Yeah,
say this: you can judge a person's character by how they respond when pressure is put on them, right? So if pressure is put on me and I pop back by saying, F you, you ugly bitch, like that, then that shows you that's me. Now, we all have room to grow, but we can't act like there's not reality there, right?
I would
So
never say that. I would
yeah,
never say that, right? Never say that at all. But I think your earlier comments were that we're lumped. And for
yeah.
me, when you see pressure on me, what do? I got to step
No,
back.
and that's what I'm saying. I think that was wrong. I think that was unfortunate, but I also feel like if production is creating, there's so much that you can do with editing. And I've been in
Yeah,
there.
like if
I know
we're
that.
here for 12 hours, I
Yeah,
can make you whoever I want you to be in 12
yeah,
hours in 3 minutes. Because these dates are cut down tremendously. I can
that's
make you
crazy.
whoever I want. And
Yeah,
I think, there may be, I feel like there's truth on both sides,
yeah,
right? Like we did the experience, we did it together. It is what it is. Her experience is her experience.
yeah,
Um, but I'm not mean. Like I said, no one can find a time when I was mean to them. I'm
yeah,
not mean. I'm not combative. I'm not argumentative. And like I said before, I'm aware enough to know that I do have such different opinions on things, which is why I don't engage in. So I don't talk about politics at all. Like Condoleezza is my favorite person in the world. Like many people don't like her. I love her to death. Like
yeah.
I have different things into what I feel like, but I also, as we talked about earlier, have very different lived experiences.
That's true. But that's
So
a beautiful
unless
thing. And I think as women, and this is just Crystal's opinion, I love the fact that I think that's dope. I think
yeah,
that we have to embrace there can't be one way that we are or that way is not accepted. I think we are not a monolith, and there's nothing wrong with you saying Condoleezza is your favorite person. There's nothing wrong with someone else saying Beyonce is theirs. There's nothing wrong with someone else saying Cardi is theirs, and we can all find value in each other. The problem comes when we start to judge each other, and if we are judging, just keep it to yourself. Like that's the thing. So I appreciate you being
yeah.
honest and sharing with us. Definitely, you guys check out her coffee company. That's dope. It's very different. There's a
We
coffee.
have 6 different blends. We got candy yams. We got our cognac one. They're all named after significant events and individuals within our collective American history. 64th in Tulsa, Civil Rights Act of 64 in Tulsa, Black Wall Street. So they look like this when y'all go in the grocery store. We are the only female Black-owned brand on shelf in HEBs. So it's a hard feat. We want to stay there. So make sure you check that out. And also the amazing podcast with all those awesome Black-owned businesses and the full recap of what happened at that elimination.
All right. Well, I appreciate you. I'll definitely check out your coffee. And again, thank you so much for hanging out and having the patience to stay here and really share your story. I appreciate that. And again, it was absolutely beautiful to see your response to what you've done with students and teaching. I hope you get a chance to share more of that.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. All right. Bye bye. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. We have been here 2 hours and 12 minutes, but I think tonight it was a good interview. I appreciate Jessica sharing her side of the story. And we will be back tomorrow. Someone said earlier, Crystal's doing back to back to back interviews, and I am. Tomorrow night, we have guest Nate is going to join me at 7, actually 8 o'clock, and we're going to talk about why are Black women single? Why are so many of us single? So I look forward to having that conversation. And then, of course, at 9, Chris is going to join us for his side of the story. You guys know I feel like everyone has a right to tell their side of the story. I feel like everybody this season, Jessica, Janelle, Chris, everyone has a story and they all deserve to share it. So whether they choose to share it here or not, I think that we should listen and give everyone the benefit of the doubt and give everyone grace. Thank you so much for that. So much, Nola K. Yes, X's and O's to everyone. I love you guys for watching. Make sure you like and share this before you get out of here. And I will see you guys right back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. All right. Have a good night.